What is going on? Aubrey Whitley here, and today we've got a great topic. We're going to talk about rep ranges. This was a request from my former video on progressive overload training. I had someone comment that getting more into rep ranges would be a really good topic, and I couldn't agree more. So if you get value from this, please like and subscribe. It supports the channel, and you'll get notified when other videos come out on similar topics. So I want this to be a lot more like a community and not just me talking at you all the time. And so if you ever have anything, a topic, a subject that you want to dive more into, please leave it in the comments below. Just like I'm doing now, I want to give the people what they want. So I'm here to serve, and just let me know. And if it's a topic that I feel like I can talk enough about or bring in a specialist on, I'll do it. So let's just jump right in. So we're going to talk about rep ranges because a lot of times people wonder, how do you determine what a good rep range is, or how do you even come up with that? As a coach, I'm very strategic with how I program everyone's training, and I look at the body, but I also look at the different muscle types. And you really can't talk about rep ranges without talking about muscle fiber types. So, generally speaking, you got different types of muscle fibers. You've got fast twitch, slow twitch, and some are a mix of the two. And so, what you'll find is slow twitch responds really well to like high reps. So, that would be more of your endurance muscle groups where you want your rep ranges to be more like 12 to 20, I'd say. Um, and we'll talk about the very specific muscle groups and which ones are high rep and which ones are low rep. But if you've got a slow twitch muscle, fiber dominant muscle, you want to train that at high reps, at least. If you want to throw in one or two low rep sets and just see what you can do, by all means, go. The first muscle group that comes to mind is pecs. A lot of people will say, how much can you bench? That's a question that a lot of bodybuilders get asked. And it is awesome. It's a great feeling to bench press a lot of weight. And if you're a power lifter, you already know. But it turns out pecs respond really well to high rep training. So you would do really well to maybe join a push-up contest where you're cranking out as many push-ups as you can, or maybe you hit a PR and you do one rep and see how far you can go. But then for your back off set, maybe you hit a high rep set and work on that endurance. So just remember that slow twitch muscle fibers respond well to higher reps. And then it's the opposite. So if you've got fast twitch muscle fibers, those respond better to lower reps. So what that means is you want to hit about like 6 to 8 reps would be considered lower reps. Now, this means you need to adjust the weight. For those of you that are a little bit more in the beginning stages, you want to go to failure, meaning you want to give it all you've got. So you don't want to just choose a light weight and do 6 to 8 reps when you could have gotten like 15 more reps. You don't want to leave anything in the tank, so to speak. So that means I always say log your numbers just like I did in that progressive overload video. You really want to log your numbers and have them dialed in. That way you can push as much weight as you can safely and get that rep range that you're desiring. So an example of this might be quads. Say you're doing, we'll just say a goblet squat. It would be really good for you to get targeting quads. It would be really good for you to hit failure between like 6 to 8 reps. Goblet squats might be hard, so leg press might be another great example because you can really load up a leg press. If you can hit failure targeting your quads on a leg press at 6 to 8 reps, log your numbers and continue to do that every week, they will grow. So that's just another example. And then you've got these muscle types where there's mixed fibers. So that's going to be things like glutes. And I'll give you an example of that in just a little bit. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you and show you just an overview of this. But when you think about rep ranges, think about muscle fiber types. And then when I finish sharing this with you, I'm going to add one more point about this.
I got nerdy and created a little bit of a visual here for you. So if you want to take a screenshot, now is a good time just to have this as a reference. But let's just break down muscle fibers and training different muscle groups. So as a review, slow twitch muscle fibers respond well to high rep ranges. Fast twitch respond well to low rep ranges. Mixed fibers respond well to both. And most muscle groups are going to be a mix of the two types of fibers, but many of them lean predominantly one way or the other. So if you look to the right, Slow twitch muscle fibers tend to be areas like shoulders, pecs, abs. So when you think about these muscle groups, you want to think about endurance. They grow very well if you drag out your sets and you stay in those reps for longer periods of time, or those sets for longer periods of time. Fast twitch are going to be things like triceps, your lats, erectors, quads, hamstrings. And so these respond well to more of those low rep ranges, heavy weight. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why you might not be able to go so heavy on certain muscle groups like triceps, quads, hamstrings, well, all of them really. So we'll talk about that in just a second, and why you might want to start at a higher rep, even though they respond very well to low rep. So we'll get to that in a second, but this is just a good outline to just kind of see what muscle groups belong in which category. And then you got mixed, which are things like biceps, glutes, and calves. So for example, with my clients, when they train glutes, a lot of times I'll have them do one really low rep set on something like hip thrust, where they can load the weight on and really hit failure around like 6 to 8 reps max. And then I'll throw in like a 15 to 20 rep set, or have them do glute kickbacks where they're doing like 15 to 20 reps. That way they're getting the best of both worlds, the high rep and the low rep, low weight and high weight. So hopefully that helps you a little bit just to see this.
Hopefully by now it's clear on what fast twitch versus slow twitch and mixed muscle fiber groups are. Now, you are not going to always be able to ideally hit failure within 6 to 8 reps. And I'll give you an example. Let's say quads. If you're doing quad extensions, that's a lot of pressure on the joints around your knees, your ligaments, to be hitting failure at 6 to 8 reps, because you're going to have to load up so much weight, and that's a lot of pressure on your knees. So you do have to consider ligaments, tendons when you think about growing, because those don't adapt as fast as muscle fibers do. That's why you hear people get tendonitis, they'll get joints, aches, and pains. This is where training strategy really comes in. I'm a huge fan of pre-exhausting target muscle groups before you hit the big compound movements. And this is going to be easier on your joints because by pre-exhausting the target muscles, they're going to be doing a lot more work on those big movements than hopefully your joints and your tendons are. And so, for example, here's an example. We talked about quad extensions. We know that quads are a fast twitch muscle fiber. So lower reps are better. We want to use a bunch of weight. But if we're on the quad extension machine and we try to use a bunch of weight and our knees are screaming at us, we don't need to do that. So what we'll do instead is maybe we'll hit a couple sets of high reps on quad extensions, and we'll really focus on that mind muscle connection to your quads. Get them fired up, get them pre-exhausted, and then you go over to a squat or a leg press. You've already pre-exhausted your quad muscles, but you haven't overexerted your joints because you've gone high rep, so those aren't screaming at you yet. And then when you're on the leg press or the squat and you hit a 6 to 8 rep max, your quads are already exhausted when you go into it. So they're going to have to do so much work on the press or the squat that you're going to hit failure with 6 to 8 reps without having to load up so much weight and put so much pressure on your joints. And it's the same thing with a lot of things, like biceps, triceps. A lot of times the joints around the elbows, or you'll hear people get shoulder injuries a lot with like their rotator cuff. These can't always be prevented, but it can help to pre-exhaust the muscle before you go into a top set that's going to be low rep. Anytime you hear low rep, think high weight. Anytime you think high rep, think moderate weight, because you need to be able to push it for longer. So just something to consider. Not all of this is set in stone. So I don't want you to watch this and just think, well, Aubrey said that this is a slow twitch muscle fiber, so I have to go high rep, or the opposite. Listen to your body always. What your body is telling you is important. And so there's a big difference between good pain and bad pain. If your muscle is fired up and it is burning like hell and it's good pain because that muscle is being basically torn up when you train and it's being annihilated in a good way, that's good pain. It takes pain to make gains. So you do need to feel pain when you train, but that's a lot different to feel a muscle pain than it is to feel, let's say, a tear or feel a sharper pain in your joints. When you feel something like that, that's when it's a red flag and you say, okay, my body is telling me something's not safe for me. So that's where you might need to pivot and get a little strategic with your training. So that's what coaches are for, by the way. So I work with women, Walker works with men. So if this sort of stuff gets you a little intimidated and you know that you could probably unlock your next level, but you're not sure how to do it safely or with strategy, comment below or send me a message. I'm very active on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram, my name is Aubrey the Sculpting Coach. So just send me a message. I'm actually like very personable and love talking to people. And so, or if you just have a question, drop it in the comments below. We can continue to nerd out right here. So hopefully you found this helpful. And if you did get value, don't forget to like and subscribe. And like I said, we've got a couple of videos coming up. So the next one is going to be actually one of my favorite topics that I haven't covered on YouTube yet. And we're going to talk about not surrounding yourself with yes people, meaning make sure you have people in your life that are going to tell you the truth, not just people that co-sign or go along with whatever you do. Make sure you have people in your life that are going to challenge you and that want the best for you. So that's going to be our next video. And then after that, we're going to talk a lot about lower back, the lower back, and making sure it stays safe, exercises to strengthen it, because I keep seeing so many lower back injuries left and right. So we're going to nerd out on that in the next couple of weeks. But until then, I hope you got value and I will stop there. I love you guys. Stay strong and I will see you next time.